Overall, this was a really fun card. I actually had the ability to watch most of it. So I'll start from where I started watching it. So I started watching it from the Jonathan Martinez versus Alejandro Perez fight. And Martinez did a great job. I mean, he's a masterful kicker. I mean, that kick is just, beautiful. It's super quick. It's lightning quick. I mean, the problem is, if you don't set up the kick with punches, usually you can see it coming and block. But this guy it's like a bullet. I mean, the guy it's almost like he should be in some action movie, like almost like a Jean-Claude Van Damme kicking. You know what I mean? Just fantastic. It would be nice if he could set up his kicks with punches a little bit. Even just like a fake jab or something to get the person's, to Alejandro's attention. Then it would be even more damaging. The only worry was, again, he did get caught in the first round with that knockdown. So he's been vulnerable to getting hit in the face while, if you catch him while he's kicking, or the same thing happened with Davy Grant. And honestly, this is one thing I did want to talk about. So the rules, according to, I know Louise had a great video about the rules, talking about how immediate damage is the most important thing. It's way more important than damage over time. Now, technically, with that being said, couldn't you give the first round then to Alejandro Perez? Because of the fact that even though Martinez had way more damage over time, Perez dropped Martinez. And wouldn't that count for more? It kind of reminds me against Piotr Jan when he beat Jimmy, oh my God, I was going to say Jimmy Crute. Definitely not Jimmy Crute. The guy who fights from the karate gym up in New York. Jimmy, he's a veteran. He recently he beat Pedro Munoz not too long ago. Jimmy. It doesn't matter, but you guys know who I'm talking about. If you look at that fight, but the difference is Jimmy wasn't piecing up Piotr. It was just not much going on. He just did a little bit more, and then Piotr would drop him at the end of every round. At the end of the first, almost finished him. At the end of the second, at the end of the third. So it's a little different, but still, it's kind of like, where do you draw the line? Like, if someone whacks you like 100 times with a light shot the whole round, and then you almost knock him out in the end of the round, according to the rule set, then you should the guy who knocks the other guy down should win that round, because immediate damage is more important than cumulative damage. But that's where it gets confusing, and a lot of commentators don't even talk about that, because then it just becomes very arbitrary. It's like, do you feel like the cumulative is worse is more damaging than the knockout type shot, or not? And that's where it gets really freaking tough. It's like, it almost reminds me of also the Yana fight against Caitlin Vieira in the third round, where she held her down, but then Yana almost knocked her out in the end of it, and she won that round, stole that round, even though, Caitlin was just laying on her for most of the third round. So this is where it gets very freaking confusing. And maybe there needs to be more, and I felt like that the judges get blamed for it, but it's not always their fault. And we'll talk about another fight that was later on that was definitely controversial, the decision. So overall, Jonathan Martinez, he showed actually, I was going to continue with that, he continued with the kicking, and all the respect to Perez, he went for it at the very end. And Jonathan Martinez showed that he had some hands. And maybe if he combined those with his kicks, it'd be great, because it looks like he's either kicking or punching. And he's shown the ability to do both together. But sometimes I feel like, I understand where he's coming from. He wants to keep you in kicking range, but you can also just throw out the fake jab. You can throw a nice fake long jab and then get into kicking range. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be you don't have to be risking yourself. I understand his strategy. It's I don't want to get hit in the head. I'm just going to throw kicks to keep people off, keep them at distance. So, but maybe just employ the jab a little bit along with those kicks, and maybe just a 1-2, maybe no looping punches, or at least if you're going to do looping punches, maybe long hooks. If you want to keep him at distance. So, but still, fantastic job, Jonathan Martinez. I mean, his kicks are absolutely gorgeous. I mean, again, I wish it'd be fun just to watch this guy hit pads or something. The guy's absolutely, ridiculous, incredible, very talented young man. That brings me to Terrence McKinney, another very talented young man. And I kind of regret not jumping on him, because I felt like Fares is a solid fighter. And I wasn't sure, because, you see a lot of hype trains derailed, but Terrence, I mean, the fact that Juliana's Pena's coach, when I heard him say that this guy's the most talented fighter I've ever seen, like natural, I was like, shit, I should have thrown some money on him. I didn't touch this fight, and I didn't even talk about this fight on any of the breakdowns, but wow, the guy did great. Although it did look a little bit sloppy at points, he's just so talented, he can pull it out. I mean, he's just so athletic and gifted. He also appears to be much bigger than Fares. Fares looks like, I would argue that Fares should fight at 145. I feel like he's too small of 150. I understand he's tall, but if you look at his frame, he's relatively thin. It's kind of like, if you compare him, he's fighting at 155, and he has that long, thin frame, kind of like Ignacio Bahamondes, who looks very, very thin. But then if you look at Joel Alvarez, I know he lost, but the guy looks like more muscular. He looks like a big guy. And we're going to talk later about that fight. But yeah, so, I mean, what can you say? I mean, he had like a failed takedown attempt. He was able to recover. And then, I think he almost had a submission. Then he fucked up. Then he got a kind of rear naked choke from a weird position, kind of from the side. But the guy is very physically strong, very explosive. It's going to be interesting to see if someone can take him to the second, third round, how he's going to fare. Kind of similar to... oh my God! The guy who fought William Knight 2 fights ago, not the Russian fighter, the fighter before that. He was I forget what his name is. I remember he was just demolishing people in the first rounds. He has a first round submission over Fabio Charant. You guys know who I'm talking about. Like, his name is not coming to me, but he's kind of like a bulldozer. But once he got pushed into like the third round, I remember OSP had a knockout over him. Then the grappling type fighter had a beat him. Man, I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. I'm not remembering the names today, but the grappling type fighter who got submitted by Anthony Smith, very nice jacked legs. But okay, the point being is that we'll see how him as a bulldozer can go into the later rounds. But what's interesting again is people forgot that this guy is a wrestler. Yeah, he's in love with his hands, but I love that he had the fight IQ not to stand and bang with Fares Ziam, a solid kickboxer. He was able to get him on the ground right away and finish the fight and that makes him more dangerous. Kind of like looks like a type of baby Hamza. You know what I mean? We'll see. He's very good, smart kid, and we'll see how far he goes. I mean, again, I would argue that Fares maybe should go to 145 because I feel like I understand he's tall, but I think that he doesn't have enough muscle to be at 155. In my opinion, and 155 is a division of killers. 145 is as well, but Jesus Christ, you look at 155, there are just so many freaking prospects. I mean, incredible. Again, even on this card, you saw some solid 155ers. That brings us to the next fight, Josiane Nunes against Ramona Pascual. And what can I say? Ramona Pascual has the heart of a lion. Really tough. She got, I mean, honestly, it was tough to watch when she had that beat up eye and Josiane was like wailing on her, and I was like, man, like, stop the fight. But Josiane, man, like, just shows you that rugby toughness. And I've seen even people in the gym who come from rugby, they're just very very tough. And I mean, look at that, like Alexander Volkanovski, all these guys. I mean, rugby is a really tough sport. I mean, the guys are absolute beasts. And I think they were talking about that in the broadcast about how the tackle was very similar to a double leg takedown, and she was able to get that even when she was beat up. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to do much on top of her. But if she could have actually had some ground and pound, she could have won that fight. But Josiane, man, 5'2", fighting at 145, man. Like, and it's funny because her arms aren't that big, but you could just see it in her legs. She has jacked legs, kind of jacked up body. Although Ramona was much bigger. I see both of them. They said go back to 135. I mean, I know a lot of people talked about that analogy that Josiane is kind of a Jessica Andrade. Good for her, just super tough. And again, it was just sad to see Ramona get beat up. But again, she's just has a heart of a lion. And I wish her the best. She's definitely UFC material. Happy to see another fighter from Hong Kong. I know Sasha Palatnikov was there, but he got cut from the UFC, unfortunately. So now we have Ramona Pascual. So I'm really happy for her. Again, tough as a lion. I hope she heals up. I mean, it was just like watching that eye and then watching the freaking the blood from Joel Alvarez. I'm like, oh my God, like. See, this is where I don't mean to go on a tangent. When I think about combat sports, I love it, and I think it's important because it's important for people to learn that because there's a lot of bullying and violence going on, and for you to defend yourself and defend good, honestly, like that's important. I know it sounds kind of corny and cheesy, but on the other hand, man, like it's so tough to see the brutality of it, and like I actually love watching like a chess match. And I don't really like it when people just have a punching in the face content because again, like, all these are people. These are people that are going to have to retire and grow old career, and I don't want any of them to have CTE. And it's, again, that's always why I'm torn when I think about fighting is, I love the sport. I love the technicality of it, but, it just always, I feel bad for guys who just getting bludgeoned out there. And, they have the heart of a warrior, and they're going to keep fighting, but man, I feel bad because all these people, I don't want them to have memory loss. I'm hoping that like that there's advancements in medical science and that people can, if they have CTE, they can come back. And I've met people with CTE, and it's, man, it's just terrible because again, it's so important to learn this, to stop bullying, to be able to defend your loved ones in a dangerous situation. You know what I mean? To stop bullying. I mean, I've seen that so many times where some big guy is going to try to go out there and cause trouble, and it's on all of us men. You know what I mean? And women too, but men to defend the vulnerable. And I just wanted to say that. And it's just tough watching people really take damage, man. Like maybe it's like, maybe they should stop fights early. I don't know what the solution is. Like, I feel bad because I understand that, like, it's a loss and then, you have to come back and all this stuff. But, watching people just get brutalized, man, it's just not my cup of tea. Like, again, it may sound like I'm a hypocrite because I do love watching the sport and I love breaking it down and the analysis. And I think it's one of the greatest sport, in the sense that, again, it's all about self-defense. It's about showing who you are on the inside. I mean, if you're out there in the ring or the cage, who you are as a person is going to come out, like your heart. And even if like you're not there then, and even though if you like people always like to criticize the fighters who quit, but you know what I respect, even if they do, if they can come back and prove themselves later on, I respect them even more because it's not easy. And that's all I wanted to say is just I feel terrible watching fighters get really get brutalized. Again, I don't know what the solution is. I really don't, but I don't want any of these fighters to get hurt, especially their brain. I just wanted to kind of say that. And that'll bring us to the next fight, Ignacio Bahamondes against Zhu Rong. Rong Zhu, Ignacio Bahamondes. Rong Zhu just looks like when they were talking about in China, the NFL Combine, like their MMA Combine, and he scored the best. And he looks like he's very physically like fit and very like athletic. Just the way he moves is super athletic. I feel like Ignacio is not as athletic, but he's been training for so long that his technique is impeccable. So I feel like Rong, he came in overweight. I think that, again, he's a young guy. Hopefully he can get it together because I do think he has a lot of talent. I think he has a ton of freaking talent. The way he was able to lift Ignacio like nothing and slam him down. But Ignacio, again, with that beautiful technique, he's been training since he was a kid, and it was amazing to see his father in the corner. Just incredible, that bond, man. Like that, that kind of stuff makes me tear up. Watching a guy and his father have that bond, and him showing respect to it, him representing the great nation of Chile, and and then also seeing Bilal Muhammad there. A lot of respect there. Again, I think that, he's a really good prospect. I was impressed by his sweeps and his submissions. He just showed that he's available. He can do anything. He just has to be careful in that short range because when Rong Zhu was coming in, Ignacio's body was vulnerable. So, that's always a danger with tall guys. But, I do think Rong Zhu is really freaking good. I just think, once he gets a little more focused, maybe, that was a sign he wasn't as focused because, he didn't cut all the way, and he missed weight pretty significantly. It was a 160, I think, came in at, and he has up to 156. So, I wish the best of both of them, but, good for Bahamondes. Looks like a great stand-up guy. It's crazy to see him because he's very lean, but you got Joel Alvarez, who's like taller and longer than him, and he's way more jacked. I don't know if Bahamondes maybe could fight at 145, just saying, but we'll see. Again, he's clearly a really good fighter, so he can pick any weight class he wants, but I'm just thinking about that. That brings me to the main card. Armin Petrosyan against Gregory Rodriguez. It's funny, like, no one talks about this, but doesn't Gregory Rodriguez look like a jacked version of Obama? He looked like a really jacked version. I was going to say, I love this fight. This was, for me, was the fight of the night. Both guys showed incredible heart, really awesome. I would say maybe if Gregory used his takedowns a little more, he could have won. But on the other hand, Arman trains in Dagestan with those killers, so that's why he was able to get up from the takedown, even when he was in that weird position, like the leg submission. And just an incredible fight. I thought Arman took the fight, honestly, but I wouldn't have been mad if it went the other way because of his rally in the end of the round. Obviously, he was getting dominated in the third round, but he rallied hard in that third round. And it just shows, I remember, oh my God, again, I'm forgetting the fighter. He's one of the oldest fighters in the bantamweight division, Ronnie Yaya. He was talking about, I loved what he said, that he spoke to Daniel Cormier. He's like, the guy who wins the first round is the better fighter. The guy who wins the second round has the better cardio, and the guy who wins the third round has the most will or the most heart. And that just showed it. And not taking away from Gregory. Gregory's a monster. I still can't believe that he got knocked out by Jordan Williams. Maybe because he got his weight cut better now, but it was crazy because Jordan Williams is kind of like the skinny guy, even at 170, and he knocked out Gregory Rodriguez, the biggest 185. I mean, the guy's arms are huge. I could see that maybe his legs aren't as big as arms, so he's more like an upper body dominant guy. If you look at like Usman, also more upper body dominant versus lower body, so maybe that's why he looks bigger than he actually is. But he looks like a massive guy, really tough. I mean, the guy has fucking power, man. But Arman Petrosyan, I mean, what a legend, getting his nose busted. I mean, that was hard to watch with that kick, and then coming back and freaking and rallying at the end. God bless him, and I'm excited to see his future. I like Gregory Rodriguez a lot. I mean, guy's nasty jiu-jitsu. I don't know how Arman got out of that, but respect to him, man. Maybe it was because it was the second round, they were covered in sweat. Perhaps if Gregory had him there early, which he could have done, maybe he could have won. But Gregory Rodriguez is really good. I don't think this takes away anything from Gregory. I think it just adds hype on Arman. And I'm curious to see which was the fight of night. I think that was, and Priscilla Cachoeira and Ji Young Kim was. So I'm hoping that both those all those fighters got fight of the night. So that brings me to Arman Tsarukyan and Joel Alvarez. Honestly, it was sad for me to see that fight because I love both guys, and these guys are both fucking amazing. I don't want to see them now. I want to see them later on when they're top of the division. It's just unfortunate. Like, I don't like putting two really good freaking prospects together. Even like the Shavkat Carlson Harris fight, I wasn't really happy about. But this one especially, I mean, Joe Alvarez is fucking amazing. I mean, maybe he needs to go to 170. Maybe it's a sign. But, I mean, Arman, that guy is the real freaking deal. I thought that Joel would have an advantage with his height, but Arman is an absolute legend. I mean, the guy had a close fight with Islam Makhachev. I mean, it looks like Islam's going to be the champion. Arman's going to be up there later on, taking away from Islam in a few years. When Arman gets to the top. But Joel, Arman's takedowns insane. His ground game insane. Those elbows vicious, man. I couldn't watch with the bleeding from Joel. And I love the guy. I love he came out with that beautiful Spanish music. And it was inspiring, and and again, I love Arman as well. I love those Armenian fighters are really tough. They have a lot of heart. I liked his music, his entrance music as well, and yeah, it was just tough to watch with Joel, but he'll be back. It didn't look like he. I don't want to say. I felt like he maybe didn't take as much damage because it felt like he might have blocked a lot of the shots. He just wasn't defending as much. That's why they stopped it. But I hope he didn't take too much damage. And I hope he learns from this. He's a fucking incredible fighter. I think he needs to be careful with trying to just throw up subs. He fell in love with the subs instead of getting back up, where I think he had a good shot with the striking. But, I think he's going to learn from this. He's going to get better about 155 or 170. He's an amazing prospect. And I really like Joel, man. I really like Joel, and I really like Arman, man. I can't wait to see these guys in the future. And I don't want to see these fucking amazing prospects fight each other. Please, just let them fight guys, maybe veterans or whatever. I mean, there's plenty of other guys, but just these sizzling hot prospects, let them build up. Let them build up. Don't just throw them into the fire at each other, My opinion. But maybe some people like that. But next fight, Ji Young Kim against Priscilla Cachoeira. So, to be frank, I missed most of the first round, then I watched the rest of the fight. Again, another fight of the night contender. So, my problem was when the commentary team said that there's no way that Cachoeira won that fight. Now, I beg to differ. Why? Because of the same discussion I had earlier on about immediate damage being more important than cumulative damage. And mind you, I missed the first rounds, but Bisping, when I started watching, Bisping had said it looks like Cachoeira is landing the more telling shots, but Ji Young is landing the more volume shots. So, by default, you can make an argument for Cachoeira round 1, and then round 3, obviously. Round 2, Ji Young can clearly won that. I mean, one thing I'll say, as a lot of people, I mean, Joe Rogan said that Cachoeira should be cut from the UFC, and she made a big mistake, and that was like disgusting to watch the eye poke. But thank God that it was the redheaded girl who submitted her, Julian Robertson. I think it was Julian Robertson. Thank God she's okay. And I know it was disgusting, but all I'm gonna say is, people do make mistakes, and I hope that, and Cachoeira has a heart of a lion, and I know she fucked up, and I know. Maybe she was in that mode where she couldn't really figure out what she was doing. And again, that's not an excuse, but I'm happy the UFC gave her another chance. She put her in a fight of the night. I mean, she's a warrior. Again, I'm worried about her with brain damage. They call her zombie girl. She's taking a lot of damage, but she's like she's actually an ex-drug addict, so it's inspiring that she came back. But she's a real warrior. She has a lot of heart, and all I say is that Ji Young looked better than ever, and she had that slick striking. But Priscilla Cachoeira showed in the third round. Doesn't matter how slick Ji Young is, she had heart. She just came in and it was like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to get hit 5 times, but I'm going to come in with those fucking elbows. And she just kept going, bah, bah, bah. And it was just, man, just the heart of a warrior. And she deserved to win that fight. And look, a lot of people disagree. I like Ji Young Kim a lot. And it's unfortunate because she's always the victim of these decision losses. Her against the great British Molly McCann fighter, Molly Meatball McCann. I think Alexa Grasso definitely beat her, but it was still a close fight. And she's really tough. I really respect Ji Young Kim, but Priscilla Cachoeira, every time you count her out, man. I always like betting on her as a dog, but I actually didn't bet on her the past 2 fights, but I usually bet on her as a dog. Against Jillian, I didn't bet on that, and her against this fight, I didn't bet on that, so that was a mistake. But again, they say that she was like plus 800 at the end of that fight. I mean, I would have taken that bet. You know what I mean? That's why sometimes it's good to look at the live betting. Another thing I'm going to talk about later is about they're talking about Serkinov, about the if you look at the live odds, I was going to comment on that. But actually, that's the next fight. So just one last finishing touch. All the respect to Priscilla Cachoeira. I feel bad for Ji Young Kim. It's so tough, especially these guys get half their paycheck. I would say that give him the damn full paycheck and just give him a finish bonus, like Adesanya says. I respect Adesanya. He's speaking up for the fighters who are making $12K fight, which is ridiculous. I mean, these guys are putting their life, their health, their mental health on the line for this. They should be getting paid as much as possible. I understand the UFC is a business. All the respect to Israel Adesanya for speaking up. God bless that guy. And, just wanted to say that with Serkinov, so plus 800 Serkinov was it like plus 500? Minus 800 Serkinov was to win that fight after the first round. I was like, Turman has a real fucking shot of winning this. I mean, just because you almost got finished in the first doesn't mean shit. He clearly recovered, Turman. And honestly, when I made that video, I forgot that Glover Teixeira was in Turman's corner, and Turman just, once I saw that, I was like, fuck, probably worth betting on Turman. And I was wrong about the fight. I said that it was going to be a boring fight. Man, was it an exciting fight. With Turman almost getting that rear naked choke early on, then, what's his name? Then Serkinov turning it on and just throwing fucking vicious ground and pounds. Then after the vicious ground and pound, he, what was it? What was later on? Oh, then he takes down Turman again. And, they say don't put your hands on the mat. And Turman, that armbar was perfect. That's like when people say, a black belt, that's a black belt right there. Like instant, like a fucking snake. Like a snake sees its prey, pop! That's it. It was done. Less than a second. It was over. And respect for Turman for not breaking Serkinov's arm. He kept him in that spot and, knew that this guy needed to tap, but he gave him a second to tap. Always respect for that. I hate when guys just break it right away. So all respect to Wellington Turman. The guy, picked up his career. Serkinov, it's unfortunate. He did a great job. But, it's that Glover Teixeira effect. I feel bad. I wish Serkinov the best. He's clearly, doing. He it's a close fight. I think Turman's a better prospect than people give him credit for. At first, they said he was a prospect, then he got knocked out by Andrew Sanchez, and people kind of lost hype on him. But happy he's at 185 now. It makes sense. I mean, he's only 6 foot tall. I mean, that's a big, 6 foot tall. Think about that. If you're cut 185, that means he's at least 200 pounds walking around. 6 foot, 200 pounds. That's a solid ass guy. People now kind of see. I feel like a lot of people think, oh yeah, if you're 6'4", you should be 240. You know what I mean? Because they see NFL type players. But you look at MMA, you see guys, like Joe Alvarez, 6'3", fighting 155. So you got to remember that, it's kind of helps with the height. You know what I mean? A lot of people. And I just saw actually podcast. I watched the Mark Bell Power Project podcast. They had a guy from the Phoenix Suns coaching. He was talking about how you see a lot of leaner, taller type fighters. You don't see as much guys who are built like a brick shit house. So, but just wanted to kind of say that I think you're going to see a lot of taller type fighters coming on the scene. But with that being said, we're going to take it to the main event: Islam versus Bobby Green, and I called it under 2.5. That was the safest play to make. And then also I said Islam by submission, and if you wanted to, you can throw Bobby Green in there by knockout. If you want to do to be cover all your bases. Well, actually, no. I'm sorry. I was wrong about Islam by submission. I had Islam by submission, so I was wrong about that. But I said that the best pick was the under 2.5. I thought that was the safest pick, and I was right about that. Is that under 2.5? That was the pick I said, and then I was as a backup, if you want to pick a direction, that's how I thought: Islam by submission or Bobby by knockout. But I was wrong about that. I remember that happened to me when I had Felicia Spencer, the Phenom, when she fought the French fighter at 145, and I put her by submission and she won by TKO. So that can happen a lot. If a ground fighter, they can set up a submission, they can do a TKO, and yeah, I mean, what can you say? Islam's just cutting through butter with a sharp knife. The guy's an absolute legend. I mean, it looks like he's going to be the champion. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, I love Oliveira. I respect him, and I'm happy that he's had the title. But I think it's almost like the destiny for Islam to win. And I think eventually you're going to have guys like Arman Tsarukyan fight him and beat him for the title, but later on in a few years. But Islam's just an incredible fighter. Incredible to see Khabib in his corner, heavyweight Khabib. Yeah, I mean, all the respect to Bobby Green. All the respect. He put his all in, and it happens. I just hope, I hope that Bobby Green gets more opportunities. Again, it looks like, he's not going to be the champion, but he's still a freaking solid fighter, and it was always fun watching him fight. I love his story. He's a great guy. And yeah, I mean, all the kudos to Islam and all the kudos to Bobby for taking that fight in short notice. No one wants Islam on short notice. He's kind of like the Francis Ngannou. No one wants Francis on short notice. And yeah, so overall, it was a fantastic card. I'm excited for next week for the big grudge match, and I'm definitely going to be releasing some videos on that. So thank you guys. I do appreciate all your support. Please like and subscribe, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks.